Hello everyone, and welcome to OST Live, a weekly broadcast on blockchain, branded tokens, and token economies built on OST. Simple Token, also known as OST, is a public blockchain platform that allows businesses to launch their very own branded token. Now in this episode, we're very excited to announce our latest partnership, and this partnership is with a gaming company called Animoca Brands. And with us today, we have Yat Su, which is the co-founder and board member at Animoca Brands. Yeah, welcome to OST Live.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have Chris Stark, our very own co-founder and chief commercial officer at OST. Chris, welcome to our next OST Live with our next partner.
Thanks very much, Jose.
So yeah, let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about Animoca Brands?
Well, I guess I'll spend a little bit more on Animoca Brands, but one thing I will say is my very first job in the sort of 80s, so I'm just dating myself, was actually with Atari. So I have a very long gaming history and background, and I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. Actually, the entrepreneurial journey in Hong Kong started in the sort of early 90s, and I haven't really left since. And Animoca Brands is a game company that actually went public in Australia around 2015. And has focused on various kinds of games with studios in Vancouver, Finland, and now most recently Argentina and of course Hong Kong. And sort of our most well-known title is a title called Crazy Defense Heroes right now, which is driving a lot of our revenues. But we've basically gone pretty much on the deep end with blockchain gaming and all that stuff. We just recently reported our first half-year results, which were quite good. Record revenues. We had sort of a nice profit as well. So the business is humming along, but we see the future in blockchain, and that's what we're staking ourselves, which is why we're here.
Great. And Animoca Brands is a leading public game publisher. Your guys' games have over 300 million downloads. Can you tell us some of your most recognized games?
Well, I mean, I guess. As I said, Crazy Defense Heroes and Crazy Kings are the games that we're known for today. However, we sort of did a business deal back with, I guess now Dapper Labs and HTC, and we're basically sort of bringing CryptoKitties to Greater China and also onto mobile with HTC. So, depending who you talk to in the mobile world, I suppose everyone's heard of CryptoKitties. So obviously that's a pretty big deal. And then I think the other thing that people know us about a lot more in the blockchain world now is our recent acquisition with Pixel, where we basically are bringing the sandbox game, which is basically Minecraft meets the blockchain type of game, onto the market, which we're really excited about because we think the sort of the fusion of that is perfect for the blockchain, so that's kind of in the industry what we're probably known for right now.
Yeah, those are some unique partnerships. I'm pretty sure everybody has heard of CryptoKitties and knows about the craze that happened late last year. So the gaming industry, there's been a few companies that took tokenization to gaming. So this question goes to both you, Chris, and Yat. Why do you think the gaming industry is ready to be disrupted by tokenization?
Maybe I'll start first.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I think that generally speaking, we look at it from the perspective of the player and the end user. What's the best experience for the end user? And obviously, gamers and game developers have a certain perspective, but as a gamer, we take the view that the blockchain offers many benefits. One of them, on the technical side, for instance, even things like fraud and security is an obvious one. Because in our industry, there's a lot of hacking, right? And if you want to show that you have the skills to sort of, win in something or be really good at something, it doesn't work when someone's able to sort of hack, your coins or that kind of stuff, right? Which happens particularly in the casual game segment a lot. You just have to look at some of the leaderboards, and the blockchain obviously helps with that a lot. But the other thing, of course, is the value proposition. Before it was very difficult to sort of value the time that you spend inside a product like, whether this is Minecraft or our own Crazy Defense Heroes or the sandbox. But now, actually, through tokens, you can actually value a community. In this case, an individual game community. And who knows if the value will be long-term or short-term, but actually it's time spent that can then be valued by someone else, because whether they sell an NFT or whether they sell their items or whether they sell so the coins that they've earned, all of these things are actually tangible value now to players. So I think just the gamer itself will have such a benefit that they themselves would probably prefer an environment like that.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think so NFTs, so non-fungible tokens, are a really, really important part of all of this. So what that means is so every Bitcoin is the same as every other one in effect, but having the ability to have tokens that, whilst they're all the same token by name, they actually can be linked to different digital assets that you own. And so that's, obviously this is famously done with CryptoKitties, and has got absolutely huge potential in, especially in sandbox games, but indeed in any game. In Crazy Defense Heroes,
yes.
I own a bunch of 3 or 4 star towers that other people might want to borrow off me, for example.
Cool.
There's all sorts of really interesting dynamics, and I think I've also been a long time gamer, so and was did one of the world's first large esports communities, and I know one thing about the games industry, which is not every company is super innovative. Luckily, Animoca are, and the games industry is incredibly good at copying when someone has great success. So it's awesome to work with one of the leading players of Animoca that want to be that kind of the leading the charge in terms of tokenization of games, and hopefully that gives them a huge head start.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. I think one of the things we like to be sort of pushing things forward. We also think that maybe not every game company does it, but we do think that the industry, gamers and the game industry generally pushes things forward because of the demand from the gamer, right? You wouldn't have fast graphic cards or GPUs if it wasn't for gamers, right? You wouldn't have this sort of, this amazing sort of clickable keyboard, or basically the sort of, faster mice or these joysticks or controllers, or for that matter, Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo. All these industries wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for games. Imagine what the smartphone industry would look like if there were no games. They would just not nearly be as big. And we think blockchain can do that, and we hope to be helping sort of push that forward. But on that point, it's not just a technical change that goes through. Frankly, I think that's the easier part. It's also a philosophical change. When you're designing a game, you have to completely rethink the economy, because it's no longer a top-down sort of controlled, closed economy, actually. And that's something that a lot of game designers still have to wrap their head around, because they're worried, because they designed the world in a sort of almost despotic way, if you will. In a good way, in the sense that people are supposed to have fun, but it's driven by the vision of a few. And now with blockchain, actually, you may deliver a game with a certain environment, like what Sandbox is doing, but you have no idea, actually, how it will go. Because the entire governance and the entire structure and the commercial and even the economics of the game may change. And we've seen this with Minecraft. And look where Minecraft went, right? When Microsoft bought Minecraft, what they didn't buy was just, basically revenues, which is how most games are valued today. But they bought the influence of hundreds of millions of players who basically just sort of went onto it and said, hey, let me build a new ecosystem around it. And it just blossomed. So if Minecraft was on the blockchain, and if had it been tokenized, which of course it isn't, then I think we would see a completely different evolution, which is why we're so excited about Sandbox.
What I think there's a theme here emerging, and not just gaming, but in a lot of industries. I think of other partnerships with companies like Unsplash in photography, is that in games you could be a fantastic player, for example, and so you could win tournaments, and sure, and there's obviously esports is now very much mainstream. But what's interesting is with games you could there are other ways you could potentially earn a living now with an economy. You could maybe be an amazing game designer and create levels, and there's now, it just allows so many more ways. So an economy isn't just people spending money. It's also ways for people to earn money. I might be able to teach someone to be better, or indeed sell them a bunch of different levels, or indeed something in the Sandbox game, an item that I've made. So a really strong economy has all these different elements, and so I think that's one of the really big areas for disruption.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, so one of the things about creating new economies is spending, trying to think strategically of what the leading actions are going to be in each economy. So yeah, what do you think will be some of the first use cases that your minted branded tokens via the OpenST protocol will be used for?
So I think, obviously, as a game company, we love creating new things and sort of, we have a ton of ideas, right? So we're sort of minting all sorts of ideas to be minted on OST, right? But basically, the first broader mission that we have is how do we bring people onto the blockchain first? That's kind of like the initial, right? Because right now, we're still only talking about 30-odd million wallets, right? So how do we bring more people and onboard them? And so we are looking at designing the initial set of games that we have as ways in which we actually expect gamers to maybe be playing with sort of a game that we're designing that using OST, but actually they don't even necessarily know that it's a token just yet, because we don't think that people care necessarily that it's a token or whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it is. They really care just about, am I having fun? Is this a utility I like? Am I using this product? Because of course the community that is actually playing the game isn't necessarily the same community that is currently speculating, with cryptocurrencies. They're different, and so we want to bridge that. So I think the first set of products that we will be developing with OST will be products like that, because we need to onboard them. So CryptoKitties is a great example of a game for an existing audience because they know how to buy Ether, and when from a web-based version, they know how to use MetaMask, which is already sort of 50 barriers too heavy for most guys, right? But on mobile that changes, right? And so I think the vision for us here is we want to make it accessible. So how do we make it accessible? Well, first we think it has to be a mobile product, right? And then it has to be an onboarding that is smooth, and it has to be a gameplay that's familiar but fun. And how does the blockchain make it unique? So the unique aspect could be in the form of NFTs, right? Could be in the form of an economy where people trade with each other, where we ourselves no longer basically sort of sell the content, but people self-generate, UGC, so many of these elements. Now, we haven't, we just signed a partnership, so we haven't got a sort of blueprint right now, right? But you can imagine these are the areas that we'll be developing with Simple Token.
Great. So yeah, did you explore different blockchain options? Why did you choose to work with OST?
Well, I mean, first of all, there were many sort of tactical reasons. They're in our backyard. We happen to both be in Hong Kong, so we're like literally minutes away. So that's definitely an advantage. But also, frankly, I think we share the same vision in terms of onboarding people onto the blockchain. And I think what Simple Token does with sort of the white labeling of tokens, sort of allowing people to sort of easily create their own tokens, is quite compatible. We don't believe in a world where there will be one master token. We don't think that's going to happen because it doesn't make sense. Just like with games, there's going to be different games that have different economies, right? You cannot combine our crazy defense hero economy with Clash Royale or with Fortnite. They're completely different because they're set up in a different way. You can interchange the items maybe you can trade the coins, but you cannot actually just sort of take the same economic system because some people reward more, they have a different inflation setup, who knows what it is, right? So you have to have different coins, if you will. And these ones, what Simple Token is doing is making it simple, I guess, for others to make a token, therefore, hence Simple Token, I guess. And it allows sort of this to proliferate more. Now, having said that, we are working with all sorts of blockchain companies because it's the early days. And we feel that the community is, it's so small, right? And we want to bring this to billions of people. So I think partnership is the name of the game here. And so it's not so much that we're working exclusively, but we're very excited about this.
This also does align with some of OST's goals, which is to bring blockchain to sort of these millions and billions of users without the users necessarily having to know that it is blockchain or how it works and functions. So yeah, Chris and Yat, thank you both for joining us today on OST Live. For the listeners, you can check out the Medium post, which we released more information about our partnership. Yeah, where can people learn more about Animoca Brands?
Well, I mean, I guess a few things. You can go to animocabrands.com. That's an easy one. And then, we're going to I recently authored a blog post as to our vision on NFTs, which I think is interesting for those who are curious about why we're so excited about the space, particularly with NFTs. And I would encourage people to maybe read that and see where we think the future will go.
Great. And for listeners, you can check out all of those links in the description below. This is also available on iTunes, so be sure to subscribe on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening on the podcast app, we're also available there. And Chris and Yat, thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jose.